Bitcoin is the strongest asset the human race has ever invented. It's like gold with none of the defects of gold.
Bitcoin's the first property right independent of the monopoly on violence, or independent of physical protection production.
When you look at Bitcoin specifically, it has a financial component that is unavailable in other assets. It is systematically built to continue to protect your purchasing power.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and get a masterclass in crypto investing. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Invest in volatile assets with Michael Saylor.
So what's Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is the strongest asset the human race has ever invented. It's like gold with none of the defects of gold.
So define what the defects are. Why is it the greatest monetary invention?
So I buy $1 million of gold. Okay, if the price goes up, the gold miners, first of all, the gold miners are going to create more gold and dump it on the market. If I could eliminate all gold mining forever, if I could wave a magic wand and make it impossible to mine any more gold, my $1 million of gold will hold its value better because it'll be scarce. But gold miners are inflating the value of the supply of gold by at least 2% a year or so. And then if the price doubles again, investors will invest in more gold miners and they'll create more capacity to mine gold. So you'll create capacity to mine gold, you'll mine the gold, you'll crank up the rate at which the gold mines function. After that, people with gold jewelry will melt their jewelry down, convert it to gold bullion and sell it, right? If the price of gold went up by a factor of 20, you would be like converting all your gold stuff into gold bullion because it seems like a good idea. They call it scrap gold, right? And then after that, bankers will issue gold warrants and gold paper and gold derivatives, and they'll sell them short without the gold because they can speculate in it, and they don't have to have a one-for-one coverage of gold to the gold derivatives. And so that's called hypothecation and rehypothecation. Okay, if it keeps going up, the governments holding gold will start to sell some of their gold to manipulate the price down. Right, and all of these, and ultimately, if it goes up enough, someone will club you over the head and take your gold, or a hostile regime will take your gold, or a politician will pass a law taxing your gold. Right? There's a lot of ways you lose gold because it's physical. How do you cure the problem? Right? I mean, here's how you cure the problem. You make it impossible to mine any more gold, and then you make it possible to take custody of your gold personally off of the exchange or off of the bank. So that way the bank can't hypothecate it or rehypothecate it. Miners can't inflate it. Investors can't create any more gold miners. And then you make it possible to move it from here to Switzerland or Singapore in an hour for a nickel. And that way, if you don't like your bank or don't trust your bank, if the state of New York passes a law taxing it, you move it to the state of Wyoming. You know, if the government passes a law taxing, you know, the ownership of land in California, you can't move the land out of California, can you? If you have $1 million of gold in a bank and in a vault in New York City, you know, there's only a couple of places you can move it. You can move it to London if you have 6 months. Okay, so you're going to be subject to the law of London or the law of New York. Can you actually move to your favorite island, or, you know, can you move to the Cayman Islands and bury your gold underneath your hut in the Cayman Islands and be safe about it? Not likely. Can't even get it through the airport, right? So the problem with other properties, and gold is the simplest example, but the problem, the challenge or the analogy holds with any property. Bitcoin represents the apex property rights of the human race. Like, I'm not disputing the ability or the, you know, legitimacy of a government to pass a tax. At the end of the day, they can tax your gold, they can tax your stocks, your bonds, your building, yourself, your income, whatever they want. But the point really is, you're a lot more likely to tax the stuff that you walk past, you know, every day on the way to work, and legitimately, you can move yourself and you can move your property if it's crypto to another jurisdiction, but you can't legitimately move a ranch in California. So your property rights are stronger and the value of the property is higher. Right? You have a valuable thing in Manhattan. It's interesting to other wealthy people in Manhattan, but when you have Bitcoin, it's interesting to wealthy people everywhere on earth. Right? You can liquidate $1 billion of Bitcoin on the weekend in any currency, any time. Try liquidating $1 billion building, right? That's a 3-year process, right? So it's liquid, it's fungible, it's desirable, and so that's what makes the asset valuable. And it's the most difficult thing to impair.
Rule number 2, look for inviolable property with Robert Breedlove.
We've historically always needed an enforcer. So you need the police force, you need the military to make sure no one comes into your house and violates your relationship with your house. We needed, if maybe not necessarily a monopoly on violence, but you needed a protection-producing enterprise, which historically is the role of government, to enshrine your property rights. The problem, of course, is that they wield the power to violate your property rights as well, which historically has been very tempting for governments and bureaucrats. They typically give into it, and governments get overthrown over time. That's been the cycle we're locked into. Bitcoin's the first property right independent of the monopoly on violence, or independent of physical production. It's an informational property right. It's just an alphanumeric string. You can store it in any information-bearing medium. Put it in your mind, put it on your computer, put it in a song, do whatever you want with it. And the enforcement is done by the mining network. So the algorithm and the free market competition that's going into Bitcoin mining is effectively displacing the protection that government was historically necessary to provide in Bitcoin itself. So it's this radical new, some people have called it a metaphysical property right, and that it's just an information bearer asset. So gold was really good as a bearer asset in that, assets equal liabilities plus equity, the accounting equation. Gold was pure equity. If I hold gold, it's no one else's liability. That's really important, right? I have no counterparty risk if I hold physical gold. If I hold dollars, that's not true, right? I have this liability to the Federal Reserve, to the bank, whatever counterparties are involved. Bitcoin's the same as physical gold, but it's non-physical, right? It's informational. So it opens up this entire new sphere of possibilities in how you custody it. You can custody Bitcoin in these multi-signature schemas that are all but immune to theft. You can chop the key into a bunch of pieces and distribute it geographically. You have these military-grade protocols wrapped around it. And it gives you it is the highest implementation of human self-ownership we've ever had. Right? In the past, it's been scribbles on the American Constitution or the Magna Carta, and we'll always adhere to this document no matter what. But then, a few hundred years go by, and we're like, let's tweak this or change that or add this. Bitcoin's taken those principles we've used with foundational documents historically, and it's permanently emblazoned them in computer code. In unbreakable code, basically, is another way to think about it. So it's the invention of inviolable property, right? It's no longer a principle. We've grabbed this principle out of the space of ideas and we've anchored it into reality via the thermodynamic competition of Bitcoin mining. And it is so radically new and hard to get your head around that it's shattering worldviews worldwide.
Rule number 3, embrace technology with Raoul Pal.
You start with understanding money, which most of us don't think about. Then you kind of understand how we're getting screwed by central bank printing and the debt-laden economy and what it means. And then you start saying, oh, okay, but that's Bitcoin. And then what's this Ethereum business? And then you start realizing decentralized finance. And you're like, it's kind of a finance thing, but that's kind of cool because I can get yields now. I can get, instead of getting zero on my bank account for my hard savings, I can now get 6% a year. Wow, that's a difference. It's like going back 25 years in time. And then suddenly NFTs come and community tokens, and suddenly your mind is completely blown that this is not just money. It's the entire exchange, transfer, and storage of value for the internet. Whole business models are about to change massively because of what this technology unlocks. And then once you get your head around that, you're like, oh God, I can't even hold this in my mind any longer. It's so big. And that it's not just buy some Bitcoin, I'm going to make some money over time. It's actually an entirely parallel financial system and business structure for the world. And it's being adopted faster than anything we can ever imagine.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 4, buy when prices are low with Cathie Wood.
You, at one point, I think back in April, told Dow Jones that it could go to about $500,000. Do you still hold that target? Do you still think that's where we're headed?
We do. I do. Yassine El-Mandra is our crypto analyst, and we go through soul searching times like this and scrape the models. And yes, our conviction is as high. The one thing that has changed here, however, is the environmental concerns around Bitcoin in particular have caused people like Elon Musk to pull away and say, whoa, 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 let me make sure I understand this. And we believe that even this is going to change because, first of all, right now, the percentage of Bitcoin mined with renewables and hydroelectric power is quite substantial. I think in China, it's over 50% in renewables. And we also believe, and we wrote a paper in conjunction with Square on this, and we're going to have a conference about it in July. We believe that Bitcoin mining integrated into the distributed grid, and by that I mean solar roofs, power walls in homes, utilities, merchant power producers, starting to include Bitcoin mining in the ecosystem. Why would they do that? They would do it because renewables are intermittent power sources, right? Weather, is it sunny or not? Wind, is it windy or not? And Bitcoin mining could take off if there's excess energy from solar being loaded into power walls, it can be offloaded into Bitcoin mining, and the whole ecosystem, therefore, becomes much more economic. If this happens, we believe that the adoption of solar is going to accelerate dramatically because there's another profit center associated with it, Bitcoin mining.
Well, what happens though in the meantime? So here we are at 35,000, Cathie. Do you think we go much lower from here?
You never know how low is low when a market gets very emotional. A lot of traders see Bitcoin dropping below the 200-day moving average, which was at 40,000. So traders, once that happened, they just dump. Some just dump and run. I think we're in a capitulation phase. Yassine has a dashboard. We were looking at all the indicators this morning. They are all suggesting that we are in the capitulation phase, which is a really great time to buy, no matter what the asset is. A capitulation phase is buy. It's on sale. Now, am I saying 35,000 is the low? You know, if traders, and there are a lot of speculators in Bitcoin, if they are running for the hills just because Bitcoin has broken through a moving average that is important to them, it could continue. But all of our indicators are saying this is capitulation right now.
Rule number 5, protect your purchasing power with Anthony Pompliano.
The purchasing power increases versus the purchasing power of the dollar decreasing. And ultimately, what I think ends up being really important for the conversation is there's a financial component, which we're talking about now, right? Is I want to store the value of my time, right? And I think this is like a really, really key component of the financial conversation is all money is at the end of the day is a unit of time. And this is kind of a crazy concept until you think about why do you receive money? Because you or somebody you employ or an asset you built or something is exchanging time for money. And so ultimately, if you have lots of money, you end up having leverage on your time. If you don't have lots of money, you have to spend time to get dollars. And so money is just a unit of time. And so when I think about that, if I expend, let's say, an hour of work today and I get paid $10 an hour, and then you tell me that I took that unit of time, I put it in my bank account, and then in the future, I would have to work 2 hours to get that same $10, well, that actually doesn't feel that great, right? In terms of it feels like I can't keep up. I only have so much time in a day and I'm constantly falling behind. But if instead you said to me, hey, if you work an hour, you get $10, and then you put that money in a form of an asset that is only going to appreciate its purchasing power, then wait a minute. In the future, I actually don't have to go work for 3 or 4 hours because now I have that $10 that's saved from the time I originally spent. And so this idea of like a unit of time becomes really fascinating because what do rich people understand? Don't get in the game of trading your personal time directly for hours, right? They either employ other people or they own assets that deliver them some sort of financial return. And so when you look at Bitcoin specifically, it has a financial component that is unavailable in other assets. It is systematically built to continue to protect your purchasing power. And protect could also just be going sideways, right? Just it doesn't degrade. It happens to be going up a lot now because it's being repriced by the world, but at some point it'll reach some stable value and it'll kind of just go sideways and it'll protect that purchasing power. Really important concept.
Rule number 6, be patient with Gary Vaynerchuk.
99% of the browsers and search engines that people made lots of money on in valuation in the mid-90s went out of business. I think it's very important for people in this space to understand that it is likely that 90 to 98% of the currencies will not make it. And so there's always moments in time where and what's so incredible about this space is there's liquidation along the way. Unlike when I was investing in early stage startups, you invested and it was either feast or famine. There was no liquidation along the way, which is what has attracted a lot of the behavior in this space. But I need people to understand, to me, blockchain as a technology is a foregone conclusion. But the currencies that are built on top of that have enormous volatility. For all the people here that like to tell each other how they made $1 million in 12 months from zero, I want everybody to know this is just my real life. I have over 10,000 direct messages and emails in my inbox right now of people who maxed all their credit cards and bought Bitcoin at 15,000, right? Who are in deep who are in massive depression and sadness. So please understand that when we're in these spaces, there's enormous volatility and it's very early, like real early, like real early. And I think that the lack of patience of proving you were right or needing to make 10 million bucks or whatever is going through your mind is the vulnerability, the lack of patience in this collective, all of us here together, all the fancy people in the back and all the people here, our collective vulnerability is lack of patience. And so I genuinely believe that if you're one of the 2 or 3 people here who can fundamentally change your path from the quick score because of the gold rush nature of the oxygen in the room to do you actually believe in blockchain? Do you believe in decentralization and start being meaningful? I believed in social media in 2006. There was a lot of people who came and went in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, who had a lot of Twitter followers. There's a substantial reason that I was able to see it all the way through and be in this space with the longevity because my behavior wasn't helter-skelter. It wasn't, my pants weren't on fire because I thought this social media thing would be gone tomorrow. I am completely convinced, and this is not a disrespectful comment, I'm completely convinced that more than half this room thinks that it's a quick score game and have no sense or even are educated enough to understand how this all plays out. And I think within that is your opportunity, because I will say this, for the group that's here, you have such a substantial advantage over 99% of people because you understand this is actually even happening. The 99% of the people in the world understanding of blockchain or crypto is the word Bitcoin, and that's where it starts and ends. 99 in the collective 7.7 billion people. Please do not underestimate the ability of you being somewhere early like you are.
And rule number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is look for adaptability with Robert Kiyosaki.
Bitcoin is not the only crypto that you like. You also like Ethereum. Why do you like Ethereum? Do you see institutional investors getting into Ethereum as well as you correctly called that they would be getting into Bitcoin?
No, it's Michelle. I'm an old guy, you know. Trump and I are the same age. And I hang out with young guys and I ask them questions about Bitcoin and Ethereum. And there's so many different crypto. The reason I say Bitcoin is untested, because it is untested. It's only been around since about 2009 or something. So that's why I'm very cautious with it, the same as all the other altcoins. And I think altcoins are here to stay, but I don't know which one will survive. Remember, I don't know, you're too young. When Amazon came out, so did pets.com. And people were buying pets.com and pets.com disappeared and Amazon became the behemoth of the world. So I didn't know anything about .com and I don't know anything about crypto. So I talked to the young guys who are in it every single day and they kind of filled me up. So they told me to buy, I interviewed this guy, Robert Breedlove. He's a CPA plus a finance guy from Wall Street and all this. And he is probably the most knowledgeable on Bitcoin that, in my personal experience. And he is the one who's saying it's 1.2 million. So of all the people, I trust him. Then I asked him, I said, what happens if somebody, you know, like let's say you and I start our own coffee Bitcoin? He says, the beauty of Bitcoin is it adapts. So if this coffee Bitcoin starts kicking Bitcoin's butt, the Bitcoin will adapt. It's very similar to Amazon. Amazon adapted. It could morph. It could change as new .coms came online. It could absorb them. So that's why social media is so strong today. Once they got a foothold, they could take over any competitor they had. So the cryptocurrencies, everybody's into cryptocurrency. Every young guy's trying to start their own Bitcoin now. But what this guy Robert Breedlove was telling me, Bitcoin will eat them alive. So I don't know if that's true or not, but being an old guy, I got to trust the young guys. That's all I'm saying.
I have always seen myself as good at making money and terrible at investing money. Now you have to be very careful what story you repeat about yourself to yourself. And I just kept saying that. Like I didn't want to focus on learning about money. Math doesn't come easily to me. I don't like whatever that ability is to conceptualize numbers. I don't have it. So it's like I really struggle with that stuff. And one of my employees was like, Tom, are you looking at crypto? And I'm like, David, I'm just not interested in investing. Like it doesn't speak to me at all. And he just kept coming back like, Tom, you really need to look at this. You need to look at this. And I'm like, David, how many times do I have to say it? Like, I don't find this interesting. I want to build a company and I've already made myself wealthy. I'll continue to generate wealth and help other people by building this company. I'm not going to look at it. And then I had been introduced to the idea of digital scarcity about 6 years ago. And I thought, ooh, that's going to change my business. And then, but the technology wasn't there. And so, or I should say the networks weren't there. And I promptly ignored it. And then when it popped back up at the beginning of 2021, I was like, I'm all in because I understood what it was going to be. So I start researching NFTs, the technology behind it, and that inevitably leads you to the blockchain, of course, which then leads you to crypto, which then I was like, wait a second. what? Like, this is literally, somebody is essentially going, hey, you know, all those things that make gold like this wonderful store of value, we're now moving that onto computers. And so I've been saying for years, technology is a one-way street. I'm a total like techno optimist. There is no going backwards. Like, this only moves forward. So now it's like, wait, people are digitizing money? And then the poor David, who'd been telling me for God knows how long, 8 months, that I needed to look at it. I was like, what the hell? So I start researching hardcore about what it is. And I'm like, wow, not only do I have a fiduciary responsibility to myself and my family to learn about this, I now felt absolutely compelled to tell people one simple thing: research it. You may decide that it doesn't make sense, because I don't think I'm smart enough for people to listen to me. I do think that you're smart enough for people to listen to you, and you're certainly educated. But even if they reject it, like there is this moment of, you pull back the curtain and you see the Wizard of Oz and you're like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. And it's like a dime drop on how it works. And that's when I was like, whoa, I have to move on this, and I have to tell everybody.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. If you want to know what billionaires think about Bitcoin and if it's too late or not, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I don't worry that his Bitcoin will sort of randomly go up or down. I do think people get bought into these manias who may not have as much money